Hey, Exotical darlings, this is Coco Exotical. Thank you for being here with me. Today, we're going to talk about how you're not rude, you simply stop being convenient. So, let's talk about how people love to call you rude the second you stop quietly absorbing disrespect. The second you stop tolerating nonsense, all of a sudden you are the problem. But here's the truth: you're not being difficult, you're simply not being convenient anymore. The second you stop quietly absorbing disrespect, you're labeled as rude. When you finally speak up after months of biting your tongue, you're rude. When you finally set a boundary after years of being used as a doormat, you're aggressive. When you finally stop smiling through somebody's passive aggressive comments, you're too sensitive or too much or you can't take a joke. But the truth is that you're not rude, you're simply done. And the people who are calling you rude are simply mad because you stopped being convenient. The psychology behind why women especially get called rude when they set boundaries is called role violation. Society conditions women to be accommodating, agreeable, and emotionally available at all times. So when you step outside of that role, when you say no, push back, or prioritize yourself, you violate the social script that people expect for you to follow. And people hate it when you break the script, right? Men set boundaries all the time and they're labeled as confident or strong. But when women do it, we're labeled itchy, cold, or difficult. This is a double standard that's rooted in misogyny. Women are supposed to be warm, nurturing, and self-sacrificing. So the second you stop performing that role, now you're the problem, right? Then there's the cognitive dissonance. When someone's been repeatedly disrespecting you and you finally call it out, now they feel uncomfortable. And instead of examining their own behavior, they want to blame you for making them feel bad because it's easier to call you rude than to admit that they've been crossing your boundaries for months. So they reframe the narrative. You are the issue. You've changed. You're the one overreacting. Translation: you stopped allowing them to disrespect you and they don't like it one bit, right? For example, say you're at a family dinner and your aunt makes a passive-aggressive comment about your weight, your relationship status, or your career like she does every single time that you see her. This time, instead of laughing it off, you say, "That's none of your business and I'm not discussing that with you right now." All of a sudden, the room goes silent. You can cut the tension with a knife. Later on, your mom pulls you aside and says, why were you so rude to her? She was just joking. But here's the thing. She's been just joking for the past 5 years, and you've been quietly absorbing the passive-aggressive disrespect, but with a smile hoping that she'd stop. But she didn't. So you set a boundary, and now you are the villain, right? Another example is, say you have a friend who only calls you when she needs something. Emotional support, a favor, free labor. She takes and takes and takes from you, but the one time that you say, "I'm not available right now, I have a lot going on in my own life that I need to handle," she starts gossiping to your mutual friends about how you've changed and how you're not the person that she thought you were. What she really means is that you're not the person who drops everything and comes running at her beck and call anymore, right? Some people have spent their entire lives performing, smiling through disrespect, shrinking themselves, and prioritizing everyone else's comfort over their own. So when they see you breaking free from that cycle, it triggers them to their core, right? It's not really about you, it's about what you represent, the permission that they never gave themselves to be free and do what they want in life. There's also the social conditioning. Women are conditioned to police each other's behavior to maintain the status quo. So if one woman starts setting boundaries and prioritizing herself, then it threatens the unspoken rule that women should be endlessly accommodating to everyone. So they try to shame you back into line, right? The truth is that some of these women have been comfortable benefiting from your lack of boundaries for years, right? When you were always available, always saying yes, and always absorbing the disrespect, they had it easy. But now that you've stopped, they're mad because now they have to adjust. So what do you actually do when people call you rude for having boundaries? These are some strategies that are rooted in psychology and self-respect. Number 1, don't justify, argue, defend, or explain. When you set a boundary, you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you did it. No is a complete sentence. I'm not available doesn't need a follow-up dissertation. The more you explain, the more they'll find ways to try to argue with you. 2, name the pattern. If someone keeps calling you rude for setting boundaries, call it out. "I've noticed that every time I say no to you or state my preferences, you label me as rude. What's going on there?" Number 3, let them be uncomfortable. You're not responsible for managing other people's discomfort with your boundaries. If they're upset because you're no longer absorbing their disrespect, then that's their issue to process, not yours to fix. Number 4, surround yourself with people who actually respect boundaries. The right people aren't going to call you rude for having self-respect. If your circle is full of people who punish you for setting boundaries, then it's time to reevaluate that circle. Number 5, reframe the narrative in your own mind. Every time someone calls you rude, remind yourself, "I'm not rude, I'm simply done with the disrespect." And that's healthy, right? You're not the problem for setting a boundary. They're the problem for crossing your boundary. The truth is that you were never too much. You were simply too much for people who wanted you to stay small, right? The moment you stop shrinking, stop performing, stop quietly absorbing disrespect, people who benefited from your silence will try to shame you back into it. They'll call you rude, difficult, aggressive, too much. But here's what they're really saying: I liked you better when you didn't have any boundaries. I liked you better when you prioritized my comfort over your own self respect. And to that, you get to say, that version of me is gone and she's never coming back. So let's normalize women having self respect without apology. Setting boundaries isn't rude, it's self respect. And if people can't handle that, then they were never meant to be in your life anyway. So tell me about it. What boundaries are you setting today that you've been too afraid to set before? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.